would like to complete your ensemble.
Oh, no. There's something else of yours that I want.
Oh, really? What's that?
Your ass!
The Cannonball Run is remembered for its outrageous stunts, star-studded cast, and over-the-top humor. But behind the scenes, the story was even wilder. From real-life protests to hidden cameos and chaotic sets, the movie carried a history rooted in rebellion. What many don't realize is that the film wasn't just another Hollywood comedy. It was inspired by a real, illegal cross-country race. In 1971, automotive journalist Brock Yates teamed up with legendary driver Dan Gurney to drive from New York to California as fast as possible, not for fame or fortune, but as a protest against the national speed limit. They proved their point by completing the trip in under 36 hours without rules, permission, or regard for the highway patrol. Their stunt sparked a movement, and soon, underground cannonball-style races multiplied, drawing drivers with exotic Ferraris, souped-up muscle cars, and even wild disguises. One team famously entered with a fully equipped ambulance, forged medical paperwork, and uniforms, tricking police into letting them speed across the country. These races were pure chaos, with no governing body, no safety guarantees, and only one rule: get there first. Brock Yates himself later slipped into the Cannonball Run movie in a cameo as a race official, a fitting role for the man who had created, organized, and even driven in the real races. A writer for Car and Driver, Yates turned his frustration with government-imposed speed limits into a full-fledged protest on wheels, known formally as the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash. One of the most famous race vehicles, the battered Dodge ambulance, wasn't just a prop in the film. It was the actual ambulance Yates and director Hal Needham had entered in the 1979 Cannonball. With a hired doctor and a fake patient in the back, they managed to convince authorities they were on medical business, though the vehicle nearly failed them after catching fire in the desert near Palm Springs. Still, it made it to the finish, and later to the big screen. So when audiences watched Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise tear across the country in that beat-up ambulance, they weren't just watching fiction. They were watching a vehicle that had already lived a legend. One of the biggest twists behind the Cannonball Run was Burt Reynolds himself. Though he was the film's leading man, he later admitted he hated being in it and even called it one of the worst decisions of his career. So why did he do it? Simple. His close friend Hal Needham, the director, asked him. The two had already worked together on hits like Smokey and the Bandit, and Reynolds trusted him. But once filming began, Reynolds realized the script was sillier than he expected, and he admitted he only took the role for the paycheck and to help a friend. The irony was that audiences loved it. The movie became a box office success, and despite Reynolds' regret, it cemented his image as a cool, charming daredevil. Farrah Fawcett, on the other hand, didn't regret her part. She was just completely confused. She thought she had signed on for a dramatic action romance and had no idea the film was meant to be a comedy. Her first clue came on set when Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. showed up dressed as priests, joking, laughing, and clearly tipsy. Still, she played her role straight, only realizing at the premiere that the film was pure comedy. Ironically, her serious performance made the chaos around her even funnier, turning her into one of the movie's most memorable parts. Sammy Davis Jr.'s role was another unexpected twist. He wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. The part was originally meant for Don Rickles, who dropped out at the last minute. Sammy stepped in on short notice and stole the show. His natural chemistry with Dean Martin was effortless, their priestly antics hilarious, and his quick wit and smooth delivery made his scenes some of the funniest in the film. What started as a scramble for a replacement turned into casting gold. And the secret to their chemistry? They weren't just acting loose. They really were. Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. weren't faking the alcohol in their hands. They were actually drinking on set. Most of their lines were improvised between real sips, bursts of laughter, and off-the-cuff jokes. Director Hal Needham didn't fight it. He let them go wild, and their real-life friendship and rhythm turned what could have been chaos into comedy magic. Their genuine fun translated to the screen, giving the film some of its most unforgettable moments. Roger Moore's role in the Cannonball Run came with a twist that stirred up serious trouble. Playing a parody of James Bond, he drove flashy cars, flirted with women, and acted like a suave agent. But the joke was that he wasn't actually Bond, just a wealthy man pretending to be. Audiences loved the spoof, but MGM Studios, which owned the Bond rights, was furious. At the time, Moore was the official James Bond in the 007 franchise, and MGM felt the parody damaged the brand's image. The backlash was so strong that after the film's release, the studio banned all current and future Bond actors from appearing in spoofs or comedies that mocked the character. What was meant as a light-hearted role ended up changing the rules for the entire franchise. Not every behind-the-scenes story was playful, though. During production, tragedy struck when stuntwoman Heidi Von Beltz was paralyzed in a crash. She had been riding in an Aston Martin with mechanical issues during a high-speed scene, and because proper seatbelts hadn't been installed, she was thrown forward on impact and broke her neck. At just 24, her life and career were shattered. The accident exposed how little attention Hollywood gave to stunt safety at the time, but it forced change. Seatbelt became mandatory in stunt vehicles, and studios began taking stunt coordinators' warnings more seriously. Heidi's tragedy became a turning point, leading to industry reforms that saved lives. Another star with a difficult experience was Jackie Chan, who made his American debut in the Cannonball run. He played a high-tech racer and showcased his martial arts skills, but many of his best fight scenes were cut for being too intense for a comedy. Worse still, during the credits, he was misidentified as Japanese, a careless mistake that highlighted Hollywood's disregard for Asian representation at the time. Frustrated but determined, Jackie used a setback as motivation. He vowed to take control of his Hollywood career, eventually breaking through on his own terms with films like Rumble in the Bronx and Rush Hour. Though the Cannonball run mishandled his talent, it gave him the push to become a global superstar. Behind the scenes, the movie itself was barely held together. Far from a carefully planned production, it was chaos. The script was thin, with scenes often rewritten minutes before filming. Actors received hastily scribbled lines in the parking lot, and some, like Farrah Fawcett, admitted they never saw a full script at all. Director Hal Needham embraced the chaos, letting the cast improvise and follow their instincts. With so many comedians and big personalities, the looseness created confusion but also sparked hilarious, unpredictable moments. The result was less like a polished film and more like a party on wheels, a messy gamble that, against all odds, worked. What could have been a disaster instead became part of the film's lasting charm, a chaotic energy that fans still love today. Blooper reels may be standard today, but back in 1981, the Cannonball Run was one of the first major films to do it. As the credits rolled, audiences watched the cast messing up lines, laughing through takes, and goofing around behind the scenes. It added an extra layer of fun and made the movie feel even more lighthearted. Fans loved it so much that they stayed through the credits just for one more laugh. Seeing Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, and the rest of the cast cracking up made the whole movie feel like a party, while also showing how much fun they had on set. Jackie Chan, who had never seen bloopers included in a film before, loved the idea and later made it his trademark, adding blooper reels to hits like Police Story and Rush Hour. But not all the behind-the-scenes stories were harmless fun. One of the wildest moments involved a low-flying Learjet soaring dangerously close to the ground. It looked spectacular on screen, but it was completely illegal. The filmmakers never got FAA approval and just went ahead with it, sparking an investigation after the movie's release. Director Hal Needham believed in capturing the shot first and worrying about consequences later, a risky attitude that brought real legal trouble. Luckily, no one was hurt, but the stunt highlighted how far the crew would go to capture the chaos of the Cannonball spirit. Jackie Chan's American debut in the film was equally frustrating. Though it was meant to be his big break, he was miscredited as Japanese in the closing credits, an insult to his proud Chinese heritage. To Hollywood, it seemed like a small mistake, but to Jackie, it was a painful sign of how little the industry understood or respected him. Instead of quitting, he turned the setback into motivation, later returning with films like Rumble in the Bronx and Rush Hour, where he had creative control and could be himself. That mistake ended up fueling the rise of his global stardom. Then came another chaotic moment during the Las Vegas chase sequence. The filmmakers staged a wild high-speed pursuit through the city, complete with screeching tires and blaring sirens, but they forgot to tell the local police. Real officers thought it was an actual chase and rushed in, ready to make arrests. For a tense few minutes, the production nearly got shut down, and some crew members were even detained before the misunderstanding was cleared. No one was hurt, but the scare proved just how thin the line was between movie magic and real-life danger. Dom DeLuise was the heart of the chaos in the Cannonball Run. His energy, goofy charm and over-the-top humor made every scene more fun, but it also caused a few problems on set. He simply couldn't stop laughing. Whenever a scene got too silly or Burt Reynolds threw in a quick joke, Dom would break character and burst into giggles. In the film world, this is called corpsing, and Dom did it constantly. The crew found it hilarious, but it made filming tough. Burt Reynolds, who usually played it cool, would often roll his eyes at Dom's fits of laughter. Sometimes those eye rolls were real, not scripted. In fact, a few of those unscripted reactions stayed in the final cut because they were funnier than what was written. Dom's laughter was contagious, spreading even to seasoned actors who couldn't help but crack up around him. Scenes would fall apart, takes had to be redone, and the set often felt more like a comedy club than a movie shoot. But no one really minded. His joy was genuine, and it brought a natural charm to film. Next up, number 17. This movie's influence reached far beyond the big screen. The Cannonball run didn't just leave its mark on cinema, it also helped shape video game history. Its wild, cross-country racing style and rebellious energy inspired one of the most legendary arcade games of the 1980s, Outrun. Released in 1986 by Sega, Outrun became an instant hit. Players raced through vibrant landscapes in a red Ferrari with a female passenger, dodging traffic and racing against the clock. Sound familiar? While the game didn't copy the movie directly, the spirit was the same: fast cars, open roads, and a sense of total freedom. Just like in the Cannonball run, it wasn't about strict racing rules, but about the thrill of the ride. Game designer Yu Suzuki even said he wanted Outrun to feel like a road trip adventure, not just a race. The mood of the film, style, humor, and chaos paved the way for the high-speed joy of Outrun. Moving along to number 18, even the people making the movie sometimes couldn't tell who was who. Burt Reynolds may have had one of the most iconic faces in Hollywood, but on the set of the Cannonball run, his stunt double Roy Tatum fooled more than a few people. Tatum had worked with Reynolds before, standing in for many of his driving and action scenes, but his resemblance went beyond just build and movement. He looked so much like Reynolds that crew members and even producers occasionally mistook him for Burt. At one point, Tatum even played a police officer in the film, dressed in full uniform, and some onlookers thought it was Reynolds himself in costume. With his uncanny likeness and spot-on mannerisms, Tatum kept the film moving smoothly whenever Reynolds wasn't around. In a movie full of wild characters and chaos, it's fitting that one of the most convincing performances came from someone pretending to be someone else, twice. And now number 19. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Director Hal Needham wasn't your average filmmaker. With his background as a stuntman, he believed in real action, real risks, and real cars. So when the Cannonball run went into production, he didn't rely solely on studio vehicles. He actually loaned his own personal Ferrari 308 GTS for the film. That sleek red sports car tearing across the screen belonged to him. Needham trusted his stunt team to handle it, but letting actors and drivers race around in such an expensive car was a huge gamble. At one point, the Ferrari nearly got wrecked during a high-speed take, and the entire crew held their breath. For Hal, though, the risk was worth it. He believed authenticity mattered, and his car gave the movie a raw, unpolished energy that fans loved. Most directors would never hand over their personal ride for a stunt-heavy comedy, but Needham wasn't most directors. The Ferrari survived just long enough to make it to the end of filming, becoming part of the movie's legend, and a symbol of Hal's fearless commitment to making the action feel real. Studio executives saw something special in the Cannonball run before anyone else did. The film was packed with chaos, last-minute script changes, and unscripted laughs, and many doubted it would ever come together. But as the crew kept filming, the studio began reviewing the dailies, raw, unedited footage from each day's shoot, and what they saw wasn't just working, it was magic. Despite the loose script and constant improvising, the cast chemistry was undeniable. Burt Reynolds, Dom DeLuise, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. were clearly having a blast, and it showed on screen. The laughter was genuine, the action felt wild but fun, and each day's footage came back stronger than the last. The studio didn't even wait for the final cut. Before filming wrapped, they gave the green light for Cannonball Run 2. That kind of early approval was rare in Hollywood, especially for a movie that looked so unpredictable on paper, but the gamble paid off. The first film became a box office hit, and the sequel was fast-tracked into production. proving that sometimes letting things get a little messy can create real movie magic. And it wasn't just the stars who made the Cannonball run so memorable. It was the surprising faces hidden throughout the chaos. The film was already overflowing with big-name actors, but it also snuck in several uncredited cameos that added extra charm. Right at the start, during the high-speed opening chase, Valerie Perrine, best known as Miss Teschmacher in Superman, 1978, appears as a state trooper, though she was never credited. It was a quick scene, but a fun wink for fans sharp enough to catch it. NASCAR legend Ken Squire, the voice of the Daytona 500, also popped up briefly as a California Highway Patrol officer, lending real racing credibility to a film built around illegal speed and wild driving. Then there was Peter Fonda, showing up as himself while leading a biker gang in a quick, unexpected moment, a clever nod to his iconic Easy Rider role that perfectly matched the movie's rebellious spirit. These cameos weren't major plot points, but they acted like secret handshakes to the audience, little inside jokes for film buffs, racing fans, and lovers of counterculture. They gave the movie an extra layer of fun and made it feel like more than just a comedy. It became a celebration of speed, freedom, and madness. In a film full of fast cars, ridiculous stunts, and non-stop jokes, these blink-and-you'll-miss-it cameos became part of its lasting charm. The Cannonball Run was more than just a comedy about racing. It was a wild ride full of surprises, off-script chaos, and unforgettable moments no one saw coming.